My name is Noah. I'm the founder of Poolfish, and in this video, I'm going to show you how you can use this pools page on the Poolfish website to find good liquidity providing opportunities to make those sweet yields that I know you all care about. And so I'm going to dive into how to use this page, how to use this table to find the pools that you really want. And so at the beginning, I'll kind of show like how to use some of these different filters, what these different things are, what these different columns are. And at the end, I'll kind of show you maybe some different strategies, some different ways you can find good opportunities with this page. So starting off with the very basics, what is a pool even? A pool is two different tokens. Maybe it's ETH, maybe it's USDC, maybe it's like some of these other ones. We've got Frax and USDC. It's two tokens and it's a pool of these tokens. That's why they call it a pool. They're kind of, swimming, floating around, I guess you could imagine. And users, swappers, are swapping from one of the tokens to the other token. So they might come in with ETH and get out USDC from the pool. And as a liquidity provider, what you are doing is providing both those tokens so those swappers can swap in between them. And in the process, you are getting fees. So first off with this table, we're going to look at these DEXs. So DEXs are the different kind of apps or protocols where swappers can swap and liquidity providers can provide liquidity. And so you can click on these different DEXs, you can click on multiple of them, and then it will kind of show those different DEXs in the table here so that you can find maybe a pool for a very specific DEX that you're looking for. On top of that, we have filters for different chains. Maybe you only want to provide for Arbitrum. So you can just select Arbitrum and it'll only show the DEXs and the pools that are on that chain. Next, we have the different fee tiers that you can select to find pools that are only allowing those fees. And so kind of how it works is this is the fee that the liquidity providers take. So as swappers are swapping in between, they're getting out their amount in the other token, but a little percentage, 0.3% in this case, is going to the liquidity providers to split. And so these are the different options for amounts of fees. And typically, if there's a higher fee, like this 1%, that usually means these are probably going to be, your meme tokens, your more risky tokens, where they're trying to give liquidity providers more fees because they're taking more risk. Where maybe this lower amount, these are kind of more your stable coins, your more kind of blue chip tokens are on these lower fees. This selection here allows you to specify what's the time frame for all this data. So we have all this data, which we're going to get to in a second, that this table shows. And so this will kind of change like, okay, we want to take data from the last 30 days, the last 90 days, the last single day, because that's going to change, what you're looking at, what pools will pop up, and maybe even change your strategy. Like if you only have a strategy of wanting to hold a certain pool for the next 7 days, then maybe looking at the last 7 days is kind of a good way to get an idea of what could you be looking at here, what's the options. This risk selection is a really cool thing that we built with Poolfish, where you have a high risk, low risk, or safe risk. And we take a couple different things into consideration, like how many pools is the token in, how much TVL does the pool have, how much liquidity does it have, how volatile is the pair. And so we kind of have a different kind of list of metrics that we're looking at. And then we kind of bucket those pools into safe, low risk, or high risk. So this just gives you a good way to kind of to filter by what's the risk appetite that you have. Maybe you don't want to do something as risky, and so you can kind of filter by those here. If there's a pool that you like, you can just hit this favorite button, and this will stay saved up here where you can always just kind of watch your favorite pools. So you could add a couple of these to kind of keep track of different pools that you like. Okay, so now let's talk about the different data points we have here and what they mean and why do they even matter, right? So first, we just got the name of the tokens here. You got the fee tier that this pool is in. You got your DEX and your chain that this is on. So this is Uniswap and on Ethereum mainnet. And then we have our first kind of column that's kind of giving us some good information. And you can click on any of these columns to kind of filter by that data. And so if you have it like this, now this is showing the APYs that are the highest at the top. And so this is kind of a good way to maybe find some different pools, find things that are your best or your max or your mins in different situations. So APY is the amount of yield that this pool would create based on its current data. And right now, over the last 30 days, we can change that to 7 days if we want to just look at APYs from the last 7 days. But it's looking at that last historic data. It's seeing like how much yields were created from this pool And we're actually looking at a very specific position because with V3, there's different ranges, which I'll probably have to talk about in a different video. Based on your range and your position that you set up, you can have a wide range amount of yields and APYs that people can make in any one pool. And so what we do on Poolfish is we create a range based on how volatile the pair was in the last 7 days. So it will take the max and the min price and make that as your range. In some ways, that's kind of one of your best ranges you could have picked because the price was within your range the whole time. And that's what we picked to create a position. And then we're going back on the data and seeing what was the yield from that. And so this isn't like an exact, like you're not exactly going to make this yield if you put your money into this pool. Also because that was historic data, like that was over the last 7 days, and in the future, who knows what could happen. But this just kind of gives you an idea of what your yield could be, what you're looking at if you put a position in this pool. Price volatility, this is just how volatile the pool has been over that time frame. So again, you can kind of change this to look at like last 90 days, things like that. TVL, you're probably familiar with. This is just total value locked in the pool. So this is how much liquidity providers together has put in this pool. So the amount of fees in the pool is obviously important because this is the fees going to liquidity providers. If there's not much fees going to liquidity providers, you're not going to get much here. And so this is something you want to look at, and you can compare different pools. Like we can see that the USDC ETH pool has gotten the most fees that it's given out because there's a lot of volume going through this pool, and so it has the most fees. And of course you can kind of check to see how's this changed over different periods of times. Very similarly, volume is the amount of total volume going into the pool. So this is how much money the swappers are swapping in this pool, and obviously the fees is a percentage of that volume. This last column is kind of a stat that liquidity providers like to look at to know like how much volume is going into this pool based on how much liquidity there is. Because the higher this percentage, the more money that's getting split among the liquidity providers. If you had a lot of TVL, a lot of liquidity providers in a pool, you're going to get less of that split because there's so many providers to split it amongst. And so the higher this percentage kind of shows the more money that you might get as a liquidity provider. Another way that people look at this is if a pool is a very kind of risky pool, maybe it's a meme coin, something like that, they want to kind of see a higher percentage here to show like you're getting paid more for your risk, right? You're putting your money in a more risky pool. And so you're hoping that you're going to get more out of it than a lot of times what you'll see, like say USDC ETH or maybe like a blue chip, you're going to get a lower percentage just because there's more people trusting that pool, more people providing liquidity, but it's also not as risky. So it's kind of a fair trade. Kind of a rule of thumb that people have is like if you're in like a meme token, then you want to see around like 100% of volume per TVL. Like you want to see that, there's a lot of volume going in for the amount of capital you're providing to be a part of that TVL. Where if, maybe it's a blue chip, maybe a more standard number is within a 7-day period, you'll get to 100% of volume to TVL. And so maybe in this percentage, it'd look more like 15 to 20% that you're looking for a blue chip. Okay, so now that we kind of know what all this data means, we kind of know how to use this table, what are some maybe different strategies or ways you can use the table to find some good opportunities? And so I'll kind of give you kind of what I like to do. And obviously you can kind of find your own ways of doing things that make sense for you. So I like to start with this APY and kind of filter it so that the top APYs are showing here. And, you might need to watch out for some of these, like most likely these are going to be your riskier things that are getting high APYs, and also like thinking about, what's the time frame I'm hoping to put this position over. If I'm wanting to do something more passive, like I want to just hold a position in a pool for 30 days or more, then you probably want to look at maybe more historic data to kind of get a more reliable thing. If you're just, wanting to do something for the next day, then like filtering by this will give you a sense of like, okay, what's popping off like right now, what's getting a lot of volume right now, and maybe you want to pool in that. 7 days is kind of a sweet spot, so I like to use that. But you can kind of just look through here and see like, okay, what things am I liking? Kind of click through here. Now, the other cool thing is if you click on this APY, it will actually open up our calculator on Poolfish so that you can actually play around with making a position, making a range, seeing the amount of fees that you could make on that. So that's always great to kind of jump in and go deeper. And I'll probably have another video kind of covering that. The other thing you can do is click on the pair itself, and this will just jump you right over to Uniswap's info page so that you can look at more data here if you want to. Okay, so we start off with this APY, getting some like high APYs. You can maybe kind of see some different options through there. And then, maybe filter by the risk. Like maybe we don't want to do something that's a high risk, but maybe a low risk is just right. So that can give us some different options like Uni USDC right now. Maybe that could be a good option. You kind of just click through until you see kind of a token that you are kind of like, okay, I like that token. Because something I would advise is when liquidity providing, you never really want to just provide liquidity to just like some random token that you don't know anything about. Like it's probably best if you have some background on the token, maybe you've done a little bit of research, and really you want to provide liquidity to tokens that you're actually bullish on. Like you think these tokens will most likely go up in the future. You like the tokens. You don't want to provide liquidity to some like scam token or some meme token that you don't like at all. It's very possible that it could go down. And so like, obviously when it goes down, your position's not going to do as well. So yeah, find tokens that you like, and this will just kind of help you maybe find some tokens, and then you can kind of do some more exploration, researching them, looking at their website, looking at the team, things like that. So here we found, okay, Pepe. Here's Pepe ETH. This is, a pretty well-known meme token. We can see that it has some decent volatility, 33%. It's been kind of pumping a lot recently, but at the same time, like it has a lot of high TVL. Like this is, I think top 50 coin. So this could be a good one, if you want some risk, and you want to make some high APY. Like this is a pretty high APY based on some of the last data here. And so then you can kind of jump in to Pepe, and we can kind of play around with, what would be a position that could make sense here, and kind of give a decent range that allows for some volatility, since this is a little bit more volatile one. But this shows, if we had $1,000, we can make $5 a day off of this position right now. And then, of course, playing around with the different dexes and chains is a good way to find some different opportunities. Like, you may not want to be on mainnet because gas fees are so high. And so you can select, maybe you want to be on Arbitrum and Base, and you can just select those two and kind of see what are the good options there where you're not going to have to pay as much gas fees, and you kind of look through some different options. As well as like maybe there's a very specific dex. Maybe you like PancakeSwap, you like getting some cake, and so you select PancakeSwap, and you can look through the different pools that are specifically on Base. So these filters can kind of help you to find some good options there. So the other thing I like to do, obviously there's different strategies, is I like to filter by this 1% fee, because this means you're going to get more fees every time someone swaps. A lot of times this means it could be a little bit more risky, but I've found that, a higher fee really helps fighting impermanent loss. And so you can find some tokens that might be better. Obviously everyone kind of has their own strategy, but that's just something I've enjoyed, is like using this 1% and finding some different pools. And so then another filter is this one on the side here, because this kind of tells you like, hey, there's a lot of volume happening for the amount of TVL. So you're not having to split up as much of the fees with as many liquidity providers. And so if you click here, you can kind of see, wow, like 287%. So there's a lot of volume compared to TVL here. And so that could be a good opportunity to look into more. So I hope this was helpful for you as you learn how to do liquidity providing, how to use tools like this Pool Explorer to find different opportunities. If you have any questions, let me know. Let me know if there's any other videos you'd like to see on how to do liquidity providing. Thanks for watching.